On the edge of the Whispering Woods, nestled between a river and the Blighted Hills, lay the village of Kron. The Blighted Hills got their name from the fact that they were covered in twisted metal trees, and the ground beneath them was cracked and withered. The wind never truly stopped howling there, and the air always carried the scent of damp earth and something faintly metallic, like old blood. People there lived close to the ground, suspicious of strangers and protective of their secrets. But the biggest secret of all lay in the crumbling well at the edge of the woods, the one no one was allowed to approach after nightfall. I'm your host, and this is the Screamer in the Well. Ilara had grown up hearing whispers about the Screamer. The elders spoke of it in fractured sentences, never quite meeting each other's eyes, as if even uttering its name might call it forth. They said it came from the sky centuries ago. During a storm so violent, it split the clouds with lightning that burned green. It had taken refuge underground, coiling itself in the darkness, feeding on whatever wandered too close. She dismissed their tales as superstitions, superstitious nonsense dreamed up by people who were too afraid of the dark. But after last night, she wasn't so sure. It began as a distant rustling, like the shifting of wet leaves. Then came the sound, a high, keening wail that scraped against her bones. It wasn't the cry of any bird she knew. It was layered, trembling between rage and hunger. Ilara froze in her bed, staring toward her window where the moon's pale light barely pierced the fog. She tried to convince herself it was the wind. But then there was the flapping. The beat of leathery wings was unlike anything she had heard. They didn't hum like an owl's silent feathers or whip like a crow's frantic flight. They slapped the air with a deep, wet sound like something forcing its way through resistance. She heard it circle the village once, twice, then silence. By morning, a boy was gone. His name was Finn, and he lived at the end of the row with his parents and little sister. They found his shoe by the well. His parents swore they'd locked the door, but the window latch had been snapped clean off, bent as though by claws. There was no blood, no sign of struggle, just the shoe and the faint smell of sulfur. The elders called a meeting in the town hall. Ilara, hiding by the rafters, overheard more than she should have. They spoke of an old pact, of sacrifices, of how the screecher needed to be fed, not often, just enough to keep it sleeping in the dark places beneath the earth. A child every 5 years. It was supposed to keep it satisfied. But this was 2 years early. They had no explanation, only fear. That night, Ilara couldn't sleep. Her mind kept returning to the old well, to the damp stones and the way the air around it seemed to breathe on its own. Against her better judgment, she took a lantern and crept from her home, her feet silent on the mossy ground. She told herself she only wanted to see it, to prove to herself there was nothing there. The well was even older than she remembered. Vines clawed at its sides, and the wood of the bucket frame had rotted to splinters. As she approached, she felt a subtle vibration in the earth, faint at first, then building, as though something massive was shifting far below. The lantern flickered. Then she heard it. Not the screech from the night before, but a slow, guttural breathing. Something inhuman, something ancient. She should have run, but she leaned forward, peering into the black mouth of the well. The darkness moved. It rose silently, coils slick and gleaming, reflecting the weak lantern light. The scales were ridged and wet-looking, the color of old leather. Then she saw the head, not the blunt snout of a snake, but something worse. Its face was bat-like, with vast, twitching ears and glassy black eyes that caught her reflection. Its mouth hung open, revealing rows of needle-thin teeth. A sound emerged, low at first, then building into a wail that made her lantern shatter in her grip. She stumbled backward, blinded by the sudden dark. The flapping came again, but it wasn't flying away. It was unfolding. Wings, vast and membranous, stretched from its sides, brushing the walls of the well as if they were too narrow to contain it. It came for her. Alara ran. She could hear it dragging itself up the stones behind her, claws finding holds in the crumbling mortar. The ground shook when it landed. She didn't look back. She couldn't. She only heard the hiss, felt the gust of air as it lunged, and then the cold, coiling grip around her ankle. The next thing she knew, she was hanging upside down, face to face with it. Its breath was hot and fetid, and the inside of its mouth glistened. She could hear the wet click of its throat, as if it were testing the idea of swallowing her whole. Then something stopped it. From the shadows of the tree line, an old voice called her name. The creature froze, its ears twitching toward the sound. The voice came again, louder this time, speaking in a language Alara didn't understand. The screecher gave a final, bone-rattling wail before hurling her to the ground and vaulting into the air, its wings beating like war drums. It disappeared into the night. When Alara woke, she was in her grandmother's hut, the air thick with the smell of burning herbs. The old woman sat beside her, eyes grim. "You saw it," her grandmother said. "It wasn't a question. Now you understand why we obey the pact." Alara tried to speak, but her throat was raw. Her grandmother placed a hand on her chest. "You will tell no one what happened. But you must remember this. It does not kill for hunger alone. It kills because it remembers." "Remembers what?" Alara rasped. "That we took its sky?" Her grandmother would say no more. The elders reinforced the curfew, and life in the village went on, or at least pretended to. But Alara knew the truth now. The screecher would come again, sooner or later. It wasn't sleeping anymore. And when it returned, it wouldn't be content with just one child. Sometimes, late at night, she still hears it, that flapping, circling above the rooftops, watching, waiting. If you enjoyed this episode, you can catch more creepy tales like this one on our social media channel. We also read your comments and try to respond to as many as we can. So hit the like button, leave us a comment, and let us know what you think. Your support helps us keep the lights on here at the studio. Thanks for listening.